Hey mates, and welcome to a special Blind Prime episode. I want to talk to you today about Dungeon Crawler Carl, a book series that I am absolutely enjoying lately, and a book series that I'm highly recommending to everyone. It's just reaching some mainstream status, and a lot of people are talking about it. I just finished reading book 7 a couple of days ago, and I'm here to talk to you about the series as a whole. I do want to do videos, individual videos on the books, but we'll see how this video works. Like, if a lot of people like this video and a lot of people comment on this video, then I'll make another video about Dungeon Crawler Carl. This is a test video. Do people want to hear what Blind Prime has to say about books? Do you want to know what a blind guy thinks about books? I don't know. I'm asking you. But I'll explain to you what Dungeon Crawler Carl is, and then you can make the decision. Let me know in the comments. Do you want to hear more book reviews from me? And did you like this one? So, what is Dungeon Crawler Carl? Well, so far it's a 7-book series, and each book is decent in length. I'm talking like 18 hours and above length books. It means they got like over 800 pages. They're decently sized books. You can really get your teeth into them. And that's something I enjoy about a book. I like long books. I have the attention span to pay attention to long books, and I love them. All right? We should talk Infinite Jest sometime. But I absolutely adore big books. You can, and these aren't even the biggest books I've come across. I'm a Brandon Sanderson fan, so Stormlight Archive are some pretty thick things, and I've read all of Wheel of Time multiple times. So some of these books, the first few books of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series could all be included in the length of one of the books from Wheel of Time, because those books went above 50 hours. Pretty wild how big those books got, at least in the audio format. Been a while since I actually counted the pages on one of them. Anyway, Dungeon Crawler Carl is a new and emerging book genre. It's part of a new and emerging book genre called literature RPG. LitRPG for short. It's been in the last decade I found it, and I've been listening to it since like 2017, 2016. I've been getting the occasional books on this stuff and listening to them, and I've been enjoying them. I've been enjoying them a lot. It's something new, and it's changed a lot in the past decade. The first things that came out that would be considered literature RPG weren't even considered literature RPG back then. They were just a new way to do books. And the first one that I really paid attention to, and the first one that really got me into the literature RPG genre, would be Incarnator. I think it was Project Bluebird or something like that, or Project Starshine. I forget the name of the series itself, but I remember the first book very well, and it's called Incarnator, and that was my first real introduction to modern day lit RPG, like in the sense of how it was going to be from now on. And I've seen two separate paths of lit RPG that, at least that I've noticed. One is they've gone down the path of really not doing the level up system, keeping that part silent, but kind of having the spells and the abilities and stuff there, and you get that aspect of literature RPG. But there's no voice in their head, there's nothing really telling them what to do, there's nothing saying, achievements have arrived, nothing like that. They don't get any level up icons, they don't get anything like that. And those are soft lit RPG, in my opinion. They kind of play around with the genre, but they're not going into the deep section. They're staying around in the kiddie pool of lit RPG genre. They're barely touching the surface of it at all. Then you have books like Incarnator and what is that Necromancer series called? Oh, there's a Necromancer series that's really good, and it's also lit RPG. Those are examples, and Dungeon Crawler Carl are examples of what I would consider hard lit RPG, where there's a voice in their heads. That voice is telling them things, like they've achieved, they've gotten an achievement, or they've gotten a level up, or this is what that spell does, and then there's an explanation on what that spell does, or an inventory management system. Those are things that are just hardcore RPG stuff, and they put them in the books. That's why I consider it hard lit RPG. And Dungeon Crawler Carl is a great example of this. It's an amazing example of LitRPG structure and how the story is put together, and also how it can include multiple genres of a book series in one book. And that's the greatest thing about the RPG game, was RPG games, could be based in horror, but have comedic aspects and action aspects and romance aspects and drama aspects to them, and that's the case with this. It does feel like a video game, and the video game covers a lot of stuff. Just play Skyrim sometime, or Fallout, and you'll notice there's a lot in a video game, and there's a lot of different storylines, there's a lot of different plot points, there's a lot in an RPG. And you have to be prepared for that when you're getting into LitRPG. Understand that you're going to be riding along in a Let's Play video game. But unlike a Let's Play video game where they pause sometimes and somebody manually goes through all the stuff, you have to wait for the book to get to those points. And then, if you need to rewind it to re-listen to those parts, I recommend you do, because sometimes it's important to remember how much strength Carl has as opposed to how much strength Donut has, or the constitution of Carl based on the constitution of Donut. Those are important things to remember, and they're important things in the book series because they are constantly referenced by the characters. Carl is getting on to Donut all the time, like, you need to make sure your constitution score's up. You're really squishy. You're a cat. And Donut is always trying to make sure that their constitution score is high enough where they're not going to be taken out by a single hit. And, that's something that Carl stresses and worries about. Does Donut have enough health? And Donut stresses and worries about Carl not having enough mana. And those are important aspects to a video game. And I like the fact that the characters are discussing it inside of the book. And it's a discussion that you may have with other friends while playing RPGs, but it's being done by the main characters of the book. And that is something that's special about LitRPG. You get this weird little fourth wall break every now and then where they're talking about this stuff. And specifically when it comes to Dungeon Crawler Carl, they introduced a new aspect to LitRPG that I had not come across before. So most times in LitRPG, there's some sort of crazy thing that's gone down, some big world-changing event that's caused this to occur to people. And that's the case with Dungeon Crawler Carl, with the event that happens in the first chapter of the book that changes Carl's world. It's a big world-changing event, and that's how they explain why there's suddenly all this. Like the Necromancer thing, at the beginning of the book series, spoiler alert for the Necromancer one, at the beginning of the book series, he dies in the first chapter and is reincarnated in a far future. He doesn't know how far in the future, but now there's a voice in his head telling him that he's got levels and telling him the spells he can use, and he gets to choose stat points, and he is highly confused. For the first book, he's trying to figure out, what is this system? And the more he thinks about the weird system that exists in the book, the more pain it causes him. And he tries to fight against the system a lot. And the system is some weird, unknown magical force that really gets you. And you want to read more of the Necromancer series because you want to know, what is this force? Why does it exist now and it didn't exist in the past? What changed in this man's world to make this a reality? And that's cool. That's a mystery. But with an Incarnator does the mystery aspect as well. It's a mystery on what's going on for much of the book series, until it's piecemeal explained to you throughout. But with Dungeon Crawler Carl, it's not a mystery. It is straight out of the gate. You know exactly what's happened. And that's new to me. I haven't known what's happened until I got really into the book series before. But this is just out of the gate. You were explained what happened, and you are riding with the characters. They're learning how to deal with this new world with just as much information as you have. And that's a new one. And you don't know, but you do know. And that's some fun stuff there. That is some good, it allows for great storytelling. There's this, there's a lot I want to talk about. There's a lot I want to go into the book series, but I'm trying to keep this one as spoiler-free as possible to give you, just kind of dip your toes in it and understand what is the literature RPG genre and what is Dungeon Crawler Carl. And So far, I've kind of given you an breakdown of literature RPG, but Dungeon Crawler Carl is special because of the fact that it is a dungeon he's going into. It is a video game. It's not just a video game, sorry. It's a game show, also a reality TV show. Everything he does is televised. Literally, the apocalypse is televised in this book series, and the entire galaxy is watching him and watching the other crawlers, as they call them. Everybody who enters the dungeon's called a crawler because they're dungeon crawlers. And I like that. It's like a nod to Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop games where you were a dungeon crawler. It works. And it works for video games where you're a dungeon crawler. Anybody who's been in the RPG environment knows immediately what a dungeon crawler is. And that's a good thing for this series. The title of the series is Dungeon Crawler Carl. If you're associated with RPGs at all, you immediately know what a dungeon is and what a dungeon crawl is. And that means you are going through that dungeon slow and steady, making sure that you don't die. You don't perish in the dungeon. And that's what Carl's doing, because unlike video games, he only has one life. He's playing this on hardcore mode. And you're down for it. And there are moments where you're on the edge of your seat wondering, like, is Carl going to survive this? Is Donut going to survive this? Oh God, what's going to happen to Mongo? And Mongo is a fun character that I'm not gonna share with you because I want you to discover that for yourself. Or, if people like this, then I can go in depth in the book where Mongo appears. Wouldn't that be fun? Mongo's a lot of fun. So is Katya, and so are so many other characters. There are just Armani is, she's awesome. I like I like them all, but I'm not going to really share too many because some of those include spoilers. But what I will share is that it's a 7-book series. And I'll tell you what's going on with it, and that there are 18 floors, supposedly, in this dungeon that you learn about. And then the books break down the floors. Some books cover multiple floors. Some books only cover one floor. And that's okay, because it depends on the story and how much needs to be told about the floor. This author's doing a great job of figuring out how much to talk about and how much not to talk about. And there's this entire meta story going on in the background because the corporation that set up this reality show has its own problems. And those problems are associated with planetary governments and intergalactic governments, which all have their own unique problems and all culminate in this book series. Because this dungeon crawl is a galactic event. This is the most popular show on TV, and people pay for the privilege to join the crawl, and they pay for the privilege to hunt the crawlers, and they pay for the privilege to become gods in the crawl and then have god powers and affect the crawlers in unique ways that are just what is this author's imagination? And I've cracked up multiple times during it. I've had a blast listening to it, and I suggest that you do too. I really do suggest that you listen to it, because the guy they got, I'll know the name of the guy if we talk about book one, but the reader that they have for it, the guy that reads you this book, does all the voices themselves. I thought it was a cast, but he does them all, and that just 2 thumbs up from me, because there are some unique voices that he has managed to pull off in ways that I'm just floored. I did not know that this guy was that versatile in his voice acting, and it is just amazing. And honestly speaking, so far, so good with the Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm going to give this series an A+, maybe even an S ranking, depending on how book 8 goes, because this thing is deserving of S rank status in books. It has become a worldwide book. It is being sold across the world, and it is bringing literature RPG into the mainstream. And literature RPG is my favorite new genre of book series. I'm loving literature RPG, and I can't get enough of it. And I am so happy that this is bringing it to the mainstream, because it means authors like Brandon Sanderson or Stephen King may want to try their hand at literature RPG, and I am down for that. I want to see Stephen King make a really awesome literature RPG horror. I think that would be intriguing. And Brandon Sanderson doing something with it would just absolutely be divine. I've talked about it long enough with you. Go out and get the book today. You can find it at most bookstores, from what I understand, and multiple places online to purchase it. But thank you all so much for sitting with me today as I blathered on about a book series I have fallen in love with in the past 2 weeks. I read them all in the past 2 weeks because I just couldn't get enough of it, and I am on the edge of my seat waiting for book 8, and I hope that you will be soon too. Until next Prime, I've been Blind Prime, and this thing sleeping off to the corner has been Cream the Cat. Bye-bye for now.